Okay, let's go ahead and bring this meeting of Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors to order. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Directors Ardonish.
Here.
Logan.
Here.
Mortensen.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
And Tyrone.
Okay, everyone's here. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of business, do any of the board members request to change the order? We don't have any business items. So we could pass on that. Special reports, the San Luis Obispo Sheriff is not here, but we have Templeton Unified School District here. Yeah, go ahead.
I made notes for the last few meetings because I know I've missed coming a couple of times, so I won't be very long, but there's been a couple of a Supreme Court decision and a federal decision that's made some impacts lately on board policy that we've had to change. One of those is Mahmood versus Taylor, which was a decision, a Supreme Court decision that came out of I think it was Connecticut. There was an elementary school there that was children were being taught LGBTQ related issues, and the school district was giving the parents an opt-out. And then they decided there were so many parents opting out that they decided not to give them an opt-out anymore. And so the parents sued, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court and they won. And so now it's a nationwide effect. When LGBTQ issues are being taught, which here in the state of California, it's a law that we do teach it. The school district does have to inform parents and they must provide an opt-out. And so that's for K through 12. And so a number of board policies were changed to reflect that Supreme Court decision. Also, there's an ongoing battle between the state of California and the federal government over Title IX issues. So the best I can describe that and explain it to you, because it is very confusing. In 2020, there were some changes that the Trump administration had made then, were mostly in terms of just how people are to be responded to when they report an issue. And then in 2024, the Biden administration made changes that included transgender people as women who could participate in women's sports. And there were a flurry of lawsuits that happened as a result of that. One was heard in a federal court out of Kentucky that did affect the whole nation, that effectively rolled back, said the 2024 rule that Biden put in place was unconstitutional, and rolled it back to the 2020 rule. So the state of California is acknowledging that that was a nationwide effect, that it does affect California. They're recognizing that it's a rollback to 2020. What they're not agreeing with is what that means. So the state of California is interpreting that as, because the 2020 rule does not specifically mention transgender individuals one way or the other, therefore it means that they are included, even though the 2024 rule specifically said that and it was rolled back. So there's an ongoing battle. There's lawsuits going on now between the federal government, DOJ, and the state of California, and we're in the middle of that. So it's we've not made any significant changes to board policies in regards to Title IX yet, but that's what's going on. I'm sure some of you have heard about all of this and it's like, I don't understand why we're not following federal law. Then we have, let's see, we have a peer mentor program at the middle school that started this year for the first time. And that is a class, it's an elective that kids can take and they're chosen. So it's not like they sign up for that elective and then they do have to go through kind of a interview process and they're selected to be in that class. And they're taught how to cultivate positive peer relationships on campus, how to do conflict resolution, In some ways, it's kind of a leadership class, but it's like another student who can provide some kind of peer support to their other peers. And it's going very positively so far. They've had 105 students that they have made contact with in one way or another so far this year. We had a report on class sizes, and Templeton is one of the lowest in the county, which is nice. In our TK classes, transitional kindergarten is the lowest. We have 20.75 students per class in that age group. And our fifth grade is the highest at 30.6 students per class, which is still below the average in the county. And then 6th through 8th grades, we're averaging between 26 to 29 students per class, and in our high school, 24 to 27 per class. Really good, low numbers. We like that. We like that. We know that they learn better when we have lower class sizes, that the teachers are able to be more effective. And so that's a really good thing. Wow. But we do also still have declining enrollment. We had the parent-teacher organization recently purchased what's called interactive displays, which is like a computer like this, but it's an interactive where they can use it kind of like a whiteboard. It's also, it can connect with their Android devices, and they can teach. It's a tool to teach in the classroom, and they're interactive all throughout the campuses. So if you're a teacher in this classroom this year and you move to a different classroom next year, it's not like all the work that you had on there is missing now. It's hooked up to your account and you can access it on any of those. And so the PTO purchased, I think, 15 of those for the district. And the district went ahead and purchased the rest. And so every classroom now has one of those as a teaching tool. And then lastly, we have an update on the bond. So this last board meeting that we just had on Thursday last week, we had an architect firm, Finney Architects, that provided us with drawings of what it would look like if we did move forward with the swap of the middle school and Vineyard Elementary School. And some of the concerns with that was, gosh, if we have the 3rd through 5th graders where the current middle school is, we have the long steep stairs that go down to the lower portion of the campus, and they were concerned about kids who are younger being able to really safely manage that. Knowing my son, I can't imagine that would be an issue. What Finney Architects was able to show is that we could use that lower portion just as kind of administrative champions that does after school care and stuff like that, and all of the grades would be in that upper portion and not be having to race to get to classes during the day. And they showed more of all the different green spaces that we would have, and the layout of classrooms versus play areas, and all of that looked really good. So we didn't vote on that yet, but we're moving in that direction. That's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions?
So the bond measure, is that the most recent bond measure is for making adjustments to the schools, the classrooms, or is it to upgrade technology, or both?
Both,
Okay.
yes.
And is that for all the campuses?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so that technology upgrade was for all of the camps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, there's definitely a focus on repairing and upgrading all the classrooms. That's the priority at all of, any of the campuses that are needing that. The high school's in the best shape. But knowing that there's this possibility of doing that swap, we're needing to make that decision before we do anything else, because it's gonna change, which, if you're having the middle school out where Vineyard is now, then you're gonna need different types of STEM classes and science classes that you wouldn't have in an elementary school.
So will you get rid of the modulars that are over here at the high school? Is that part of the plan?
I'm not sure about at the high school. If the modulars are newer, they've not reached their limit yet, then they probably would not, unless there's repair issues there, they would get repaired. But, if they've not reached their
Life
life
expectancy.
expectancy yet, then they would still remain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead to, public comment. Have someone there. Public comment, members of the public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda today. Are there any public comments for us today? No? Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead, move on to.
There's a hand up there.
No,
Is that you, Carrie?
I had to move it up.
Sorry.
Consent agenda, we have 3 items on our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the regular meeting of October 21st, 2025. We have the treasurer report, from September 2025. And we have a budget amendment, Volpe Isabel lift station variable frequency drive replacement in the amount of $7,000. Any of the board members would like to pull those items for discussion?
Nothing.
Okay, the public, anybody? I'm sorry.
Not I.
Okay. Public, anybody would like to pull any of those items? No. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board then. I will entertain a motion at this time. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that the board approve consent agenda item A, the minutes of the October 21st, 2025 meeting, the treasurer's report for the period ending September 2025, and item C, the budget amendment for the Volpe Isabel lift station variable frequency drive replacement in the amount of $7,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Aye.
Tyrone. Yes. And Cardonish.
Aye. Perfect. No business items, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to general manager's report.
Yeah, just a few items to call to your attention. One, next week is already Thanksgiving week, hard to believe. Well, some of you are really getting ready, others, it's harder to believe. So just as, district offices will be closed next Thursday and Friday, in observance of Thanksgiving. I will be, out of the office or out of town during the Thanksgiving holiday, actually gone Wednesday of next week and Monday and Tuesday of the following week, but should be available. And I'll send you more information as we get closer. The district's, employees, holiday, appreciation dinner is on December 11th. That's actually coming up pretty quick too, like in 3.5 weeks or something. So if you have not yet RSVP'd to attend December 11th, please let Carrie know so we can ensure that we've got a good head count and what folks have ordered. And then finally, we are tracking a number of items for the December 16th board meeting, most of which are listed on the agenda packet, audited financial statements. We have an update to the salary schedule to deal with the minimum wage increase that takes effect on January 1st. The board reorganization, potentially the introduction of the 2025 fire code adoption, and a budget amendment reflecting on the fire out of county assignments that we participated in during the month of August. And then also, I'll just note for you, it's likely, or we're gonna try to get some changes to the strategic financial policies as they relate to OPEB for that meeting, and as well as a budget amendment for the Fortini well pump and motor, which went out recently. So those are the items that we're tracking. So it's a light agenda tonight, but expect quite a few more items on your next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for the general manager?
Sorry to interrupt. Are any of the 120 agenda items can be forwarded to December, or are we set for those?
None of those will be ready.
Okay.
For 120, and some may have to be slid further back.
Are you planning on not being here that day?
We shall see.
Alright. Okay, next item is the committee reports, Parks, Recreation and Refuse Committee, which was on October 22nd. Any questions on that? Public, any questions on that? Okay, bring it back. We are Fire and Emergency Services Committee is meeting tomorrow. That's coming up. Bless you. Activity update reports, engineering. Any questions on that? I have a question on engineering. So, the first part of engineering sheet, engineer discussed the water units.
Yes,
So, November 8th, I believe was the deadline. So has the new list, I mean, the new, the letters have gone down, the notice letters for the.
Well, her report is dated November 12th, and
Yeah,
I
so,
thought,
yeah.
so, but she mentioned that
so
the deadline was the 8th, but she didn't put any update in here.
well, yeah, she wrote this for the month of October. So it was reflecting what occurred in October, but yes, the deadline has come and gone from the prior batch of offers. We had two parties accept units. One of them has since entered into a payment plan agreement. The other party has not yet done so, but I believe they have until the 25th, or, it'll probably be the Monday after Thanksgiving before we know for certain. Yeah, and then, yes, the next batch of letters went out, Thursday or Friday of last week. So right now, everybody on the wait list, except for two parcels have received an offer. There's only two offers, two applicants that have not yet been offered units. And, our belief is that come late December, we'll be able to make an offer to those final two parties.
So Nancy Bars I got.
Yes.
And then the one that was that's the second to last one, the 190 units, was that one that was previously on the
Yes.
wait list?
They were on the wait list for 200 units. They accepted 10 and put themselves back on the wait list for 190 more.
Oh, okay.
But that was just like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
They accepted the 10, so I don't know what's in there. It seems very unlikely that they would accept that number of.
Okay.
I do have a comment, because I think she's mentioned here, it's anticipated that the entire list will be offered units by the end of 2025, which I just would like to recognize staff for that, because that's commendable. When you think that when we started on this board, several years ago, there was a list of 600 people wanting water units, and the district was unable to offer any water units at that time. So a lot has changed over the past several years to make this happen, but the goal being to someday be able to eliminate that list entirely. But to say by the end of the year, we will have gone through everyone on that list is commendable.
Yeah, well, just far fewer people were interested once the opportunity came about.
Yeah.
But especially recently, most of the parties we haven't even really heard from, they just let the option
Well,
go.
the ability to just be able to go through the list and then
Right,
offer
exactly.
the water units is huge.
It is.
So
It went quicker than we even imagined, just because, again, we didn't have to reserve units as people were making up their mind, because they just said no or just passed on it, and it didn't take as long. So it's really, it's gone quite smoothly, and we've had some questions, but not an overwhelming.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions any other questions on engineering? Public, any questions? Okay, finance, any questions on finance report? No. Okay. Public.
Well, there is a comment, I think, from the Finance and Admin Committee. So I think we can just share with the group is that when we had our meeting, this week or last week?
Thursday.
Last week. The comments from the auditors were that everything looked really well. So, I think that will be probably in our December meeting. They'll be present to provide that report, but it was good to hear that. So.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Especially after hearing some of the other department reports. Like, wow.
We're always looking forward for good news.
Yeah, no, this is all, we just got amazing staff here, we appreciate it. Fire and emergency services, any questions on that? No? Nothing. Okay, no public comments. Parks, recreation and solid waste. Any question? Comments on that?
I have a question. I just wanted to know, first, for utility or for parks, do you know, how Mel is gonna be advertising the Christmas event? Since it's coming up on like a few weeks.
Yeah, I don't, and we're not, we're not solely hosting it, maybe like
Okay.
a partner with a number of community groups. It's not necessarily a solely TCSD event. There's been some sponsorship from some community groups to like rent the park and those kind of things. So, and at last I heard, it wasn't yet like set in stone. It was
Okay.
hoping to pull it off. So we kind of the small, probably small the first year and see if it makes sense to move forward.
Okay, yeah, cause I haven't seen it.
Me neither.
Okay.
But as soon as I see some, I'll make a note. As soon as we have some information, I'll be sure to get it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's for parks. Then I have a comment for utilities.
Public, any comments for parks? Okay, we'll come back to utilities, go ahead.
I just noticed, that the production for the wastewater retrieval was 0 this past month for October, and I wasn't sure if that was, seemed,
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's, so the way, the way it works is when we deposit, when we put the treated effluent at the Selby site, we can claim it at the Smith well, like 28 months later, at the Creekside site 35 months later. And the timing of those works so that if water is deposited in the winter time, we can kind of pick it up in the spring and summer when demand is higher at the Smith well 28 months later. So there are some lower demand months where we don't need to retrieve that water.
Okay.
It's kind of, we can take it at either location.
so
But it's
just-
not a result of not having it available.
right, just the demand, the need wasn't there. Okay, great.
Any public comment on utilities? Okay, great. Next is director's report and or comments. Any directors, any meetings they attended on behalf of the district that they'd like to share?
I haven't attended a meeting yet, but I have been in conversation with Jordan Traub and about joining TRF, and we'll be having probably the first or the next meeting in the first week of December.
Dr. Morrison, did you want to say anything about it? I know.
It was a very interesting and entertaining,
Which one's this?
the IWMA.
Oh,
That,
It was
that
very
summit.
fascinating on what they were able to present on the unified front for the waste services, especially solid waste. We're in pretty good hands with what they have for this planning is going. There were some questions as for lowering rates for individuals, which was answered pretty succinctly. The idea that the current rate is at the lowest level that is ascribed to the greatest number of consumers from that point of level. And while they are looking at ways to lower those rates, it is where they're at. Our customers are looking at ways in which they can decrease their cost of waste management, and that's going to be happening in the future.
but integrated waste management is really just looking at taking state legislation and helping to implement it across the county.
Yes.
That's the role.
Yeah.
So,
This was a waste management representative that spoke at this.
Oh,
So these
okay.
weren't other individuals outside that
Okay,
organization.
okay.
This was integrated waste management presenting what it is that they provide for our citizens
okay,
and the services and how they go about it, including that we have new regulation within California and how we have basically set aside such as your common food waste.
Mhm.
Those are gonna be separate. They spoke about the idea that they have now implemented a fully functioning camera systems within all of their units, so they can essentially tell an individual why their cans have not been picked up because it was overflowing.
Mhm.
Or that it was overflowing, it was picked up, they have extra cost for it. probably look at. They are doing as best as possible to meet every requirement that's necessary within waste management. And that very IWA oriented.
I just
Thank
learned
you.
that there, well, I learned because we got fined, that, you can they said there's a new California law where you cannot place your trash cans on your neighbor's property. And so our neighbors have been putting
I'm gonna file a
their
complaint.
trash cans on our property line, and so we've been getting fined for our neighbors,
Oh,
which I didn't
Oh,
realize.
like they
Because
thought
it
they were
has to be
collecting
a
a second
sign.
can at your.
And so apparently, when they took over the contract, they have not established like new accounts for everyone. And so they just cite the property that the trash cans are on rather than who's ever owned
They're-
them.
They're based upon two things, and I kind of know a little bit about it. There is the parcel information that's interpolated within the camera system, GPS location. So you are designated your disposal units that you have.
Uh-huh.
And if someone wants to move over to that, so I've had discussions with my neighbors of where a property line
Yeah.
is, you put yours, fine.
Oh, it's,
We've been
our neighbors aren't they're like back on the easement. And so they don't, like the trucks can't get down to service their home.
yeah,
And
cause
so-
you've got some back, yeah. Well, we're at the end of a cul-de-sac, so I have my neighbor, it puts his trash cans over in front of my house.
They're not having
Because
violations.
it's easier for, for the pickup.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's kind of backing up and backing up and backing up to try and get to the cul-de-sac, and they already have problems with the other two houses at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Well, you better
But
make sure there's
I'll
no
just make
violations.
sure I don't
'cause
get
it's what
fined,
it is.
yeah.
Oh, now I'm gonna violate. You're gonna have to pay. I do, I guess, need to, wanted to share a couple of meetings I've been to, but is there a sheriff representative?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Do you have a report for us?
I do. I was told the meeting started at 7. I guess I'm.
Oh,
No,
we
6:30.
changed our time,
We've
6:30.
changed.
Okay, so from here on out, will all the meetings be at
6:30.
6:30, yes.
I will let Commander Arousa know.
Well,
And
you're
only-
welcome to give your report.
Right now?
Yeah,
And it's only once a month too, so that should be noted, because we used to meet the first and third Tuesday of the month. We're only meeting the third Tuesday of the month.
Third Tuesday. I think she told me that, just the
Okay.
time change didn't
Yeah.
correlate.
so if you like, you could go to a podium and give your report.
Sure.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
It'll be simple, so. So I'm Sergeant Slane, with the Sheriff's Office here in, North Station. Just a little bit about me. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 24 years. Recently promoted, and now I get to do things like this. So, for the month of October, which ran October 1st through the 31st, last year, 2024, we had 397 calls for service in the Templeton area. This year, that is up to 413 calls for service. Of those 413 calls for service, only 35 reports were generated this year. Now that is case numbers that we have pulled. That doesn't include kind of field information reports that is in a separate system, but of those are the 35 reports. Within those totals and the calls for service, it appears that the assault and batteries, we had 2 calls for service for that, with 1 report being taken. Disturbances, which could range from a barking dog to a family arguing to neighbors bickering about trash cans. Those were 24, and we took 6 reports. We had no burglary reports. Theft reports, 4 calls for service with 1 report taken. Vandalism, we had 2 calls for service with 1 report taken. Trespassing, we had 10 calls for service with no reports being taken. And scams, 3 calls for service with no reports. and suspicious circumstances, which could be anything like ding dong ditching, kids in the park, whatever it may be. We had 16 of those with 2 reports. Now it does appear that our reports, there aren't a lot of reports, but sometimes reports aren't taken because either the person that is the reporting party of the calls for service doesn't need a report, or it just doesn't reach the level of, needing to take a actual report instead of it being notated in our call logs within dispatch. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Oh, yeah.
So I've been reading a lot about these TikTok challenges and people are saying that there's kids going around and like kicking their doors or their garage doors and causing damage to houses. And that there's a lot of that happening around the neighborhoods here in Templeton. Have you been hearing about that or?
Not specifically here in Templeton. We've had a rash of them in the Heritage Ranch area, where we have taken multiple reports and kind of tracking those people down. But nothing specific to the Templeton area, no. But I have heard about the TikTok challenge.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
And I will pass the word along that it's 6:30. Is the other meeting at 6:30 also? Or is that one at 7? The CFD?
Okay.
Or is this?
This meeting is always at 6:30.
This is the
It's
T.
CFD.
TC.
This isn't tag.
No.
Tag is,
Tag
also-
we- what do we
tag is
do?
also at 6:30, and that's this Thursday.
It's this Thursday at 6:30.
It's in this room.
Right.
I'll see you then too with the same numbers.
Thank you very much.
Alright, going back to the director's report, I just want to, I guess, without discussion, I just wanna give some information to the board regarding library. There had been a request back in middle of September through general manager, to put the, TCLA, request for TCSD to apply to LAFCO. There was a request to put it on the agenda. So that, because of that, I have been involved in many meetings trying to decide where to go with that. Both general manager and I have been busy trying to figure all this out. So what I did first was my first meeting was on September 18th. This was just a discussion I had with Supervisor Heather Moreno. And during that discussion, I just directly asked if, actually, let me back up. Once that request was made, both general manager and I separately reviewed the meeting of TCSD meeting that we had back in October, just to see, make sure what the motion was, what the direction was to staff. By reviewing that, we saw that the direction was to, that for staff to be involved on a limited staff time, as well as we were looking for some formal commitment from the county for funding. So based on that, I just wanted to see if things have changed. So that's when I, on September 18th, spoke with Supervisor Heather Moreno, and I just directly asked her, is there any support for Templeton Library, any funding from the county that will go to Templeton Library? She says she does not know about that, and that there is a subcommittee that's forming. Don Ortiz is forming a subcommittee along with John Pichon, and they're supposed to meet. So she thought those two would be the best to discuss what's going on. But she did not give any sort of a support indication for any funding to go to Templeton Library. Meanwhile, I also set up a meeting with LAFCO Executive Director, that's Rob Fitzroy. That meeting was with General Manager Jeff Burles and I, and Rob Fitzroy. During that meeting, I wanted to see what LAFCO position was, and also indicate what our meeting had, what had happened during our meeting. So after describing what had happened during our meeting, Rob Fitzroy said yes, he had met with TCLA representative, and that he only offered options to TCLA. He said he did not recommend any specific option. He just said, look, these are your options, which included one would be create your own special district, or work through the county, or another option would be work with TCSD. So he did not recommend, he said he did not recommend any options. And at that time, he did not know about the subcommittee that's being, was going to be formed for libraries. And this subcommittee is supposed to look at all the libraries in the county to see what their status is, not just Templeton. It's supposed to be for all the libraries. Anything else, Jeff, regarding that meeting? I think those were the two big points.
No, I think you should get a separate, conversation with John Pashon as well.
Yes, so that was later, so I also had a phone conversation with John Capron. This was on October 27th. And I asked Supervisor John Pashon, is there any support for Templeton Library funding? He directly said, that he does not think that there is any majority support for that, and that he did not think that, he did not think there would be support for any of the existing funds to be taken out of other libraries, especially from Shandon or San Miguel, to bring to Templeton, because he said it would be discrimination because they're considered low-income communities. So, however, he did mention to me the subcommittee again that is supposed to meet regarding all the libraries. So after having those discussions with those meetings, then I went back to the general manager and I said, I don't believe that there are any changes from what had happened last year in terms of support for Templeton Library. So general manager, so I said, I don't think at this time it's good to have this item for discussion for TCSD, because I just didn't see any changes. So general manager communicated that with TCLA, and he also mentioned that even though I did not think so, they could come to the board and request, and at any time, majority of the board, if they decide to, they could go ahead and put this item on the agenda. Well, they were here November 2nd. They did their comments, and there was no comments from the board. So I just assumed that, that's what the board's intention is, that they don't want any, at this time, they don't want any this item on the agenda. On November 4th, I received an email from Melinda Reed. She was questioning why did not put this item on the agenda. So I responded to her with an email explaining that I have, I don't see nothing that had changed. I have spoken with LAFCO as well as Supervisor John Pashon. And then, what I also did, I still continued. I just wanted to make sure nothing, I have all my information. I send through email, discuss with Rob Fitzroy, LAFCO Executive Director, and this was on November 6th. He again said the same thing. He did not make any recommendation. He now, at that point, had heard about this subcommittee, and his thought was we should wait till figure out what's going on with this subcommittee, what decision they're going to take to supervise the Board of Supervisors. John Pashon on November 6th, same day, contacted me, and he said that the subcommittee is supposed to meet after Thanksgiving, and his recommendation as well was to wait because just see what comes out of that. And then I met with Mr. Pickett, who is the treasurer for TCLA, because I wanted to explain all these meetings that I've been involved with. And I explained to him what's going on, what meetings I have been involved with, who I discussed this information with, and he seemed to understand. I just said, TCSD basically we don't have the power to get the money from the county. So that may be a little bit of misinformation going on there. And that, it would, and LAFCO can request the money either. It will all have to be negotiated, and right now the county is just. So, anyway, so all that was done, so I just wanted to let you know that both general manager and I were working really hard on this, trying to make sure every step, is done properly. But at this time, I, have made that decision, because I don't see any changes. But again, if the board wishes to review this, as long as there's a majority, we could do that.
So it's my recollection when this came before the board over a year ago, when Melinda Reed addressed the board, it was a matter of, there was not just the funding from the county, that TCLA has not, is that the right acronym? TCLA has not been able to get those funds. So there was no guarantee we would be able to do so either. And the fact that the library had been built without a formal agreement from the county, the likelihood of getting those funds is slim.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think there was also concern raised about just the integration of the library into TCSD. So there was a number of issues that I recall were
Yeah, so-
addressed.
Yeah.
But
so I
we
don't wanna
left it-
go- I don't wanna go
Well, we
into.
left it that we couldn't have any further discussions unless there was a commitment from the
So,
county.
again, I don't wanna discuss this, I just wanna let the board know what what we've done, so. I just wanna say, just repeat again, if the board wants to do this, it needs a majority, and you could bring it up if we have the consensus, we could go ahead and put this item on there, but I don't really wanna have a discussion because I don't wanna do a Brown Act. So again, so if I'm gonna open this up in terms of, is there a consensus, if that based on the information, if you guys wanna review it, if not, then we could move on.
I don't see it as a strategic initiative for the district. And I don't see that anything has changed since this was brought before the board.
No,
Originally.
I'll agree. Well, one of our biggest sticking points is the fiscal responsibility we have to our constituents, and we don't have monies either allocated from general county or USD or any other organization outside of us to support the library. So I would pass.
Any other-
Yeah, I would agree, until, and if in fact the county says, yeah, well, they're gonna give money, then I'd say no.
I agree, although I would, any information you receive regarding the results or findings from the
course.
subcommittee, I think that I would be interested in having.
I would say so too.
Okay, well, I'll
But,
keep an eye on that.
and not to like violate the Brown Act, but do you know, what the subcommittee is looking at? Is it, like what?
I heard some sort of bond possibly,
Oh.
but I still don't know how that would work because generally bond when they are sent out is for infrastructure or buildings and things like that. Since we have the building already, so they generally don't go towards operations, so I don't know how that's gonna
But
work.
the subcommittee says is examining all of the county, okay.
And all the county, all the libraries in the county.
Do we know if local library is going to be a part of any of that discussions within that subcommittee? Or is
It
this
could be
just-
like Templeton, you mean?
The TCLA, board.
It could be, yes, it could be. From my understanding is, it could be. Yes. But the county, the Supervisor John Pishon said, county will not operate the TCLA as it is right now.
And the subcommittee isn't expected to meet until after Thanksgiving?
Correct.
Okay.
They were supposed to meet a week ago, but they got rescheduled. Alright, so I just wanted to give that, alright,
Thank you for the overview.
no problem. Any comments from public?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm assuming this is about the tax money that the library is seeking to get because there's property taxes generated here that is going to all of those libraries but not us. Is that right?
Correct. Alright, okay, that's it. Any other meetings or comments from directors? No, okay, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.